Greetings and welcome to Growth Hacking Secrets. I'm your host Mohammed Siddique from Atlanta, Georgia, and the co-author of New Success Secrets available on Amazon. On this episode, we have a special guest, Carole Burton. Carole is the host of Radiance Real Talk podcast. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Carole Burton. Carole, welcome.
Hello, how are you doing?
Excellent. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Let me start with this. Where
Yes,
were you? What happened? Who you were surrounded with? That inspired you to start this Radiance Real Talk podcast.
the podcast came out of a friend of mine as we were trying to figure out how I could share all these knowledge and messages that I have. And I always believe in talking in like real conversations with everyone I meet. And
Mhm.
that's the person said, well, Carol, why don't you do a podcast? And I thought, oh, well, that's an idea. So that's how it took off. And it's a great place for me to share my thoughts and ideas of the numbers of years that I was in the workplace, helping people to be their best selves, regardless where they are in life. And that's what I talk about. So it's real talk. And we have deep, hard conversations. Some of it's 15 minutes of how to do this, how to look at this, da 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 da, SWOT and just different ways of maneuvering and navigating the workplace. And I've been doing some really nice deep dive work with folks that really want to have conversations about equity, about adapting, just different real hard conversations that no one wants to have. And that's where I love to play.
So over there, you're trying to teach people, or you're trying to learn yourself, or you're trying to learn and share with the world and the positive
You
energy. What you're trying to do?
Absolutely, it's both. It's both because for me, the one lesson that I learned from my mother, even when she was going through the dying process, she was still learning, right? And she
Yeah,
was still leading and guiding us.
yeah,
And so from that, I really understood the power of we are truly lifelong learners,
yeah.
regardless of what we do, until we literally take our last breath. We are
Mhm.
learning about ourselves, about each other, and how we can make each other better.
Carol, I salute you for this.
Thank
Learning
you.
and spreading the positive energy, and had the whole nation worldwide. Everybody learn. That will
Absolutely.
minimize the differences. We are way more like each other. It's a ignorance level is dividing us basically.
Absolutely. And I think that us being consciously aware to commit, to opt into the commitment to improve ourselves gives us that opportunity to open ourselves to be vulnerable leaders. I know the V word, people don't like that in leadership. The vulnerable leaders, how we can be better, do better for the greater good of all.
Uh,
It takes all of us. It's
yeah.
not one person, it's not the superwoman, the superman, the super person. It is the collective persons.
Collective, all of us.
All of
So,
us.
Carol, are you ready for hard questions?
Go.
Okay,
I'm
what are
ready.
the top three mistakes to avoid when it comes to committing to a learn on something? Learn all about learning.
Knowing all of it, thinking that you know it all,
Oh my God.
not actively listening, and not being humble. That's it. Because if I know it all, I'm not open. The
Yeah,
mind is not open
yeah,
to learn. It's closed ear.
yeah.
If I'm not actively listening, I'm not hearing not only what I'm hearing other people say, but I'm not listening to what they're really not saying. I'm not tapping into that background conversation. And therefore, for me, there's no vision.
Mm,
There's no opening for self-awareness for the growth.
mm,
You can't you it's a cannot. It won't work. And
mm,
that's where people shut down. That's where we have issue resolution, right? Resolution issues, challenges, because we're not willing to be open to listen, because that's where we learn. You see, I run the conflict. I don't run away, because that's where I know my growth is.
yeah,
So therefore, I'm open and I'm vulnerable to that space.
yeah.
And that to me is where leaders need to be. I firmly believe that a vulnerable leader is the most empowered skill anyone can have, is being vulnerable.
Mm,
And that's getting naked. Excuse my language, but that's like getting
yeah,
raw and getting naked and
mm,
exposing ourselves instead of living in the optics of ourselves. My father
mm,
recently asked me very quickly, he said, Carol, in the new norm, how can a pseudo society exist?
mm,
It can't, because of the optics. We've got the ethics thing coming in.
yeah,
We've got our self awareness coming in. That's where we grow our self-care.
Yeah.
So for me, if I am in self-care, I'm not selfish, I'm
Mm.
being selfless,
Mm.
therefore I'm open. That's
Mm.
how we learn,
Mm.
in my opinion.
Yeah. So not active listening really mean is it not no intentional listener basically, you know.
Absolutely.
We
Yeah,
have
and in fact, I've got this little model. I call it the ACT of series: active listening, active observation, being
yeah,
aware of what's all around you,
yeah.
active reflection, reflecting on what you learned, what you felt, what you saw,
Mhm.
and active hope.
Mm.
Active hope moves us forward. It's not just regular hope. Hope doesn't do anything. But if
Mm.
it's active hope, we are committed into the change. We are committed into the growth.
Mm.
That is where life happens.
Wonderful, wonderful. Carol, before you were like a successful and intentional listener and all
Yes,
that,
yes.
earlier life would have been a little different. That's probably made the switch to this to learn. Would you mind sharing your greatest failure in your business life? What did you learn from it, and how did you recover from it?
I wasn't patient. I reacted too fast
Okay.
and I lost a time, value, and money.
Uh,
And so, because I wasn't patient, I wasn't on the right time. I thought it was my time, but it wasn't the right time to make that right move, the next right step, as Mario Armstrong always says. So it's all about timing. And when my timing is off, that's where my failures happen. So it's the life lessons of being patient. So when my mother, she went through 12 years of dementia. We walked beside her for 12 years. The
yeah,
greatest lesson I learned from her in those mistakes was that I didn't understand the value of patience.
yeah,
That is where the humility, that is where me being my best self came, because I walked beside her. I walked beside all my clients. Every person I meet to me can be a friend. That's just who I am.
yeah.
But it was that was the greatest life lesson she taught me, was patience and being aware of the timing. It's the connection of the two. And when I'm not there and I'm not in that space, I always fail. That has not failed yet. And that's a life lesson I keep learning.
Wonderful. This is great. So let's switch the side and get into your successes. So,
Yes.
what are the top three success secrets? Promise us you're going to give us your best ones. Okay.
Sure. Out of the, I think the greatest success, to be honest, was that I allowed myself to find my voice. I was in the workplace for over 20 some years, and I wasn't ready. I didn't know what my purpose was. The greatest success that I did was that I created a personal mission statement. I understood, and I went through the life lessons of understanding what happens when we go through a transition. All the key elements from an academic perspective and a life lived perspective.
Mhm.
And combining those two, I allowed myself to be vulnerable, to
Mhm.
step into what is my real purpose. I'm 53. I don't mind sharing my age. I'm 53, and I'm literally just now finding my purpose. And I'm finding where I need to sit. And I'm in joy. Even through the hard, I'm in joy. And that is how I know I'm where I'm supposed to be. So I know that all those years prior to where I am right now, led me to where I am right now. And for me, stepping into that boldly, I use fear as my rocket fuel. Fear is my rocket fuel. I use it. So when fear comes into my mind, I say, thank you. And then I shift it
Yeah.
into the rocket fuel to keep me going. I will tell you, I'm afraid all the time because this message is bigger than me. I'm simply the messenger.
Yeah.
That's all this is. And my message, very simply, is this: I cheerlead and support and champion people to live their best lives and live in their purpose, whatever they do, wherever they are in life, and to
Carol,
find that joy.
On a light note, you are not 53. You are 18 with a 35 years experience. Okay.
You. I like that. Thank you. And so are you, my friend. So thank you for this.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing one more success tip with us as a success secret?
Living in present.
Yeah,
Anytime I live in present when I'm communicating with a person, it's where life happens. Life does not the lesson I've learned is life doesn't happen in your mind. The conversation you're having right now of what is Carole talking about? That's the conversation in your mind. Life happens through a conversation. That was the biggest lesson I've learned. And when that happens, I am present. I am aware. I am with you in the moment as if no one else is in the room. A woman told me, a fantastic professor told me once, she said, Carole, when we walk into a conversation and when we leave a conversation, we are changed. That is very true.
yeah,
And in that, if I'm dealing with conflict, I can say to that person, let's figure out the behavior. Or I'm asking, what are the steps in the process? Or I'm asking, what is the language that you understand? If I'm in an industry that I don't understand what to do, like figuring out how to make a payment on something or whatever in life. To me, constantly being present in the conversation with the person in front of you via on the phone, via, Clubhouse, video, live, whatever,
mhm,
that is the consistency. If I'm not present, I'm not learning. And therefore, I've been a detriment to me and the person that I'm in communication with. That is a consistent success. So it's not a one thing, it's a continuous thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. You
Yeah.
talk about Clubhouse and
Yes.
TikTok and LinkedIn and Instagram. My idea is the same. Let's connect everywhere else. Okay.
Absolutely.
Hey, you're
Definitely.
watching this. You are welcome to connect with me too. I'm not only talking to Carol, I'm talking to you as well because you are a part of our conversation.
Yes.
So wonderful. How the growth hacking secrets community people are watching this now can support you.
They certainly can listen and hear me on my website, radianceresources.com. I am on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter. And yes, you can catch me in the clubhouse as well. Yay. If you
Yeah,
want to understand what I do and understand the different perspectives and lenses of life that I share, you definitely can do that on listen up on any platform, including Amazon Audible as well, with Radiance Real Talk, I should say, for my
yeah,
podcast. So it's
yeah,
Radiance Real Talk. Yeah.
yeah. So Carole Burton, host of Radiance Real Talk podcast, you can
Yeah.
get it anywhere on your favorite podcast platform.
Anywhere. Yep.
Anywhere, listen, you can enjoy the conversation. Just like it will be like giving you the self awareness to actually discover yourself
Yes.
better. It's not about the Carol. It's not about even her guest. It's helping you to discover yourself. The moment you discover yourself, you can achieve anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. Start
Yeah.
looking at other people. Start look inward yourself. Is that right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. Wonderful. So we are about to wrap up. I like to ask as if your feedback as a testimonial for the show. What would
Definitely.
you say about your today's guest experience on Growth Hacking Secret Show?
You are an amazing person. Thank you. I wish that others would be bold and audacious to reach out to people from all around the world and have a 15 or 20-minute conversation. It's always life changing when each of us do that. You made this opportunity very smooth, and I just appreciate your authenticity and your humility in the process. So, thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for your kind
Well,
words. Really appreciate it.
of course.
Carol, what would you say as a final word?
Be you, be present. Know that people are here to hear you. Know that we are here to cheerlead you, and all will be okay, believe it or not.
Yeah, be yourself. Thank you
Be
so much,
yourself. You're
Carol
welcome.
Burton, for sharing your wisdom with us today on the behalf of Growth Hacking Secrets community and our entire team. We really appreciate you. This is Mohammed Siddique signing off from Atlanta, Georgia. Until the next episode, all good wishes.